Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Tonight is October, November, December. So October 14th, right? And Thursday night. Tomorrow is Friday night. Hmm. What I'm going to talk about tonight is another thing that I love about Korea. Hmm. You know, last night I talked about, comfortable transportation in Korea. It's so comfy, like everything comes on time, transportation, subway, bus, planes. It's near and it's located every corner of street, and like every bus comes every 10 minutes, and like it's so comfy, like you don't need to drive a car. Driving a car is rather bad choice. It was what I said last night. And tonight uh I'm going to continue. mm, as a coffee lover myself, like, I mean, I love the fact that Korea is a coffee addict's paradise. I mean, coffee shops like are like on every street corner in Seoul. I mean, it's not only Seoul, but like other cities as well. I mean, there are a lot of coffee shops, and Korean people love going to coffee shops. I mean, to do Instagram thingy or doing SNS and like going to cafe and studying. Uh, and so what I want to say is Korea is really serious when it comes to drinking coffee. And there are interesting facts about coffee in Korea, and I want to share some statistics. According to the articles that I read just before, like an hour ago, uh here's the thing, like Korea drinks statistics says Korean drinks like 12.3 cups of coffee per week, which is understandable because I mean I drink coffee every day. I go to work, and after having lunch, I go to coffee shop and drink a cup of coffee, which is my daily routine thingy. So that means on average I drink a cup of a day, and that adds up to 7 coffees a week. But I also drink coffee at night too, as you can see. Oh, so about 14 cups of coffee a week, which is crazy. Mm. And also, Seoul has over 18,000 coffee shops. It's pretty crazy, right? Because I mean, Seoul is a small city compared to other cities in big countries. So, and also, Seoul has more Starbucks than any other city in the world. I mean, it's easy to find a Starbucks if you've ever come to Korea. I mean, it's everywhere, and especially Korean who owns building or apartment uh, loves to get Starbucks coffee shops in their building because it the building that has Starbucks star shops lures Koreans to come, lures a lot of people to come. I mean, like it attracts many people, so the cost of building goes up easily. Yeah. And also, like over 14,000 coffee shops newly open in Korea a year. Wow, it's a like crazy number, right? I mean, it's understandable too because a lot of retirement, like like post retirement income source thingy. I mean, the business is poses an a post retirement income thingy. So a lot of people quit their work and do coffee shops as a second thingy to get income source. So but like sadly, but they do not last long. I talked about fierce competition in Korea, and yeah, what do you think would happen? 14,000 coffee shops open a year, and about a lot of coffee shops were not able to make a profit, and it's a obvious thing. So you know, like only a few coffee shops would get profit, and the rest would just fail to get profit, and they eventually would get losses. It's obvious thing. Hmm. And it's about Korean culture thingy. Like if I do it, my friends do it, and before you know it, a lot of people do it, and we do it all together. And then at the end, some people just give up, or and do something else. And this happens really fast. I mean, it's what I feel about Korea culture. And also, but still, I mean, the new entry still outcome, exits. So still, Korea coffee culture is expected to continue to grow, in the years to come. Hmm. Well, yeah, that's about it. I mean, Korean is really serious in terms of drinking coffee, and I myself too. Mm. Yeah, that's about it. Mm. It's pretty cheap too. I mean, like the coffee that I have every day, it's about $1 price. But in some stores, uh, I mean, there are a variety of coast in terms of drinking coffee too. I mean, like Starbucks, they're pretty expensive compared to other shops. They're like $5 or $6 on average. But like the coffee shop that I go to, it's a daily routine. Uh, I said daily routine thingy, so it's a cheap thingy. Anyway, enough of talking about coffee in Korea, and I'm going to continue reading the book. Okay. Hmm. All right. Oh, okay. So far, I've been reading the book 15%. Still 15%, but then the story is getting more interesting. Did not like I talked about Harding, and Harding was the engineer who's been looked up to by other people, and he was the guy um who was left behind uh in an island. Every other people look for him, but then he got lost, and but then the rest of the people eventually found him, and they're now all together, and they are trying to figure out um uh the ways to overcome their situation. I mean, they are not facing hardships, but they are curious about the situation they face. So, uh, they're still on their journey. Mm. But then, what I'm guessing is they'd encounter a lot of interesting things about Mysterious Island, and I'm guessing it will get more interesting because the title of the book is Mysterious Island, which signifies mysterious thingy in the story. So I have really high hopes up in this story. Okay, I'll continue reading. Mm. How? Cyrus Harding was with them. Pencroft, especially since the incident of the relighted fire, would not have despaired for an instant, even if he was on a bare rock. If the engineer was with him on the rock, shh, said he, we left Richmond without permission from the authorities. It will be hard if we don't manage to get away some day or other from a place where certainly no one will detain us. Cyrus Harding followed the same road as the evening before. They went round the cone by the plateau which formed the shoulder, to the mouth of the enormous chasm. The weather was magnificent. The sun rose in the pure sky and flooded with his rays all the eastern side of the mountain. The crater was reached. It was just what the engineer had made it out to be in the dark. That is to say, a vast funnel which extended, widening to a height of 1,000 feet above the plateau. Below the chasm, large, thick streaks of lava wound over the sides for road the northern part of the island. The interior of the crater, whose inclination did not exceed 35 to 40 degrees, presented no difficulties nor obstacles to ascent. Traces of very ancient lava were noticed, which probably had overflowed the summit of the cone. Before this lateral chasm had opened a new way to it. As the volcanic chimney, which established the communication between the subterranean layers and the crater, its depth could not be calculated with the eye, for it was lost in the obscurity, but there was no doubt as to the complete extinction of the volcano. Before 8 o'clock, Harding and his companions were assembled at the summit of the crater on a conical mound which swelled the northern edge. The sea everywhere, they cried, as if their lips could not restrain the words which made islanders of them. The sea indeed formed an immense circular sheet of water all around them, perhaps on climbing again to the summit of the cone. Cyrus Harding had had a hope of discovering some coast, some island shore, which he had not been able to perceive in the dark in the evening before, but nothing appeared on the farthest verge of the horizon, that is to say, over a radius of more than 50 miles. No land in sight, not a sail. Over all this immense space, the ocean alone was visible. The island occupied the center of circumference, which appeared to be infinite. The engineer and his companions, mute and motionless, surveyed for some minutes every point of the ocean, examining it to its most extreme limits. Even Pencroft, who possessed the marvelous power of sight, saw nothing. And certainly, if there had been land at the horizon, if it appeared only as an indistinct vapor, the sailor would undoubtedly have found it out, for nature had placed regular telescopes under his eyebrows. From the ocean their gaze returned to the island which they commanded entirely, and the first question was put by Gideon Spilett in these terms: about what size is this island? Truly it did not appear large in the midst of the immense ocean. Cyrus Harding reflected a few minutes. He attentively observed the perimeter of the island, taking into consideration the height at which he was placed. Then, my friend, said he, I do not think I'm mistaken in giving to the shore of the island a circumference of more than 100 miles, and consequently an area that is difficult to estimate, replied the engineer, for it is so uneven. If Cyrus Harding was not mistaken in his calculation, the island had almost the extent of Malta or Zante in the Mediterranean, but it was at the same time much more irregular and less rich in capes, promontories, points, bays, or creeks. Its strange form caught the eye, and when Gideon Spilett, on the engineer's advice, had drawn the outline, they found that it resembled some fantastic animal, a monstrous leviathan which lay sleeping on the surface of the Pacific. This was in fact the exact shape of the island, which It is of consequence to know, and a tolerably correct map of it was immediately drawn by the reporter. The east part of the shore, where the castaways had landed, formed a wide bay, terminated by a sharp cape, which had been concealed by a high point from Pencroft on his first exploration. At the northeast, two other capes closed the bay, and between them ran a narrow gulf, which looked like the half-open jaws of a formidable dogfish. From the northeast to the southwest, the coast was rounded, woody throughout the southern part from the mountain to the shore, and arid and sandy in the northern parts. Between the volcano and the east coast, Cyrus Harding and his companions were surprised to see a lake bordered with green trees, the existence of which they had not suspected. Seen from this height, the lake appeared to be on the same level as the ocean, but on reflection, the engineer explained to his companions that the altitude of this little sheet of water must be about 300 feet, because the plateau which was its basin was but a prolongation of the coast. Is it a freshwater lake? Asked Pencroft. Certainly, replied the engineer, for it must be fed by the water which flows from the mountain. I see a little river which runs into it, said Herbert, pointing out a narrow stream, which evidently took its source somewhere in the west. Yes, said Harding, and since this stream feeds the lake, most probably on the side near the sea there is an outlet by which the surplus water escapes. We shall see that on our return, this little winding water course and the river already mentioned constituted the water system, at least such as it was displayed to the eyes of the explorers. However, it was possible that under the masses of trees which covered two-thirds of the island, forming an immense forest, other rivers ran towards the sea. It might even be inferred that such was the case, so rich did this region appear in the most magnificent specimens of the flora of the temperate zone. There was no indication of running water in the north, though perhaps there might be stagnant water among the marshes in the northeast. But that was all, in addition to the downs, sand, and aridity which contrasted so strongly with the luxuriant vegetation of the rest of the island. The volcano did not occupy the central part. It rose, on the contrary, in the northwestern region and seemed to mark the boundary of the two zones. At the southwest, at the south and the southeast, the first part of the spurs were hidden under masses of verdure. At the north, on the contrary, one could follow the ramifications which died away on the sandy plains. It was on this side that, at the time when the mountain was in a state of eruption, the discharge had worn away a passage, and a large heap of lava had spread to the narrow jaw which formed the northeastern gulf. Cyrus Harding and his companions remained an hour at the top of the ridge, like a plan in relief, with different tints: green for forest, yellow for sand, blue for water. They viewed it in its taut ensemble. Nothing remained concealed but the ground hidden by verdure, the hollows of the valleys, and the interval of the volcanic chasms. One important question remained to be solved, and the answer would have a great effect upon the future of the castaways. Was the island inhabited? It was the reporter who put this question, to which, after the close examination they had just made, the answer seemed to be in the negative. Nowhere could the work of a human hand be perceived, not a group of huts, not a solitary cabin, not a fishery on the shore. No smoke curling in the air betrayed the presence of man. It is true, a distance of nearly 30 miles separated the observers from the extreme points, that is, of the tail, which extended to the southwest, and it would have been difficult even to Pencroft's eyes to discover a habitation there. Neither could the cotton of verdure, which covered three-quarters of the island, be raised to see if it did not shelter some straggling village. But in general, the islanders live on the shores of the narrow spaces which emerge above the waters of the Pacific, and this shore appeared to be an absolute desert. Until a more complete exploration, it might be admitted that the island was uninhabited, but was it frequented, at least occasionally, by the natives of neighboring islands? It was difficult to reply to this question, but 50 miles could be easily crossed, either by Malay prows or by the large Polynesian canoes. Everything depended on the position of the island, of its isolation in the Pacific, or of its proximity to archipelagos. Would Cyrus Harding be able to find out their latitude and longitude without instruments? It would be difficult. Since he was in doubt, it was best to take precautions against the possible descent of neighboring natives. The exploration of the island was finished, its shape determined, its features made out, its extent calculated, the water and mountain systems ascertained. In a general way, on the reporter's plan, they had now only to descend the mountain slopes again and explore the soil in the triple point of view of its mineral, vegetable, and animal resources. But before giving his companions the signal for departure, Sarge Harding said to them in a calm, grave voice, "Here, my friends, is a small corner of land upon which the hand of the Almighty has thrown us. We're going to live here a long time, perhaps two. Unexpected help will arrive. If some ship passes by chance, I say by chance, because this is an unimportant island. There is not even a port in which ships could anchor, and it is to be feared that it is situated out of the route usually followed. That is to say, too much to the south for the ships which frequent the archipelagos of the Pacific, and too much to the north for those which go to Australia by doubling Cape Horn. I wish to hide nothing of our position from you." "And you are right, my dear Cyrus," replied the reporter with animation. "You have to deal with men. They have confidence in you, and you can depend upon them. Is it not so, my friends?" "I will obey you in everything, Captain," said Herbert, seizing the engineer's hand. "My master always and everywhere," cried Nab. "As for me," said the sailor, "if I ever grumble at work, my name's not Jack Pencroft, and if you like, Captain, we'll make little America of this island. We'll build towns, we'll establish railways, start telegraphs, and one fine day, when it is quite changed, quite put in order, and quite civilized, we'll go and offer it to the government of the Union. Only I ask one thing." "What is that?" said the reporter. "It is that we do not consider ourselves castaways, but colonists who have come here to settle." Harding could not help smiling, and the sailor's idea was adopted. He then thanked his companions and added that he would rely on their energy and on the aid of Heaven. "Well, not let us set off to the Chimneys," cried Pencroft. "One minute, my friends," said the engineer. "It seems to me it would be a good thing to give a name to this island, as well as to the caves, promo- promontories, and watercourses which we can see." "Very good," said the reporter. "In the future that will simplify the instructions which we shall have to give and follow." "Indeed," said the sailor, "already it is something to be able to say where one is going and where one has come from. At least it looks like somewhere." "The chimneys, for example," said Herbert. "Exactly," replied Pencroft. "That name was the most convenient, and it came to me quite of myself. Shall we keep the name of the chimneys for our first encampment, Captain?" Yes, Pencroft, since you have so questioned it. Good. As for the others, that will be easy, returned the sailor, who was in high spirits. Let us give them names, as the Robinsons did, whose story Herbert has often read to me. Providence Bay, Well Point, Cape Disappointment, or rather the name of Captain Harding, said Herbert. Of Mrs. Spilett of Nap, my name cried Nap, showing his sparkling white teeth. Why not? Replied Pencroft. Port Nap, that would do very well, and Cape Giddon. I should prefer borrowing names from our country, said the reporter. They will impress themselves better on our memory, and at the same time will be more practical. The shape of the island is so strange that we shall not be troubled to imagine what it resembles. As to the streams, which we do not know as yet, in different parts of the forest, which we shall explore later, the creeks which afterwards will he discovered, we can christen them as we find them. What do you think, my friends? The engineer's proposal was unanimously agreed to by his companions. The island was spread out under their eyes like a map, and they had only to give names to all its angles and points. Gideon Spilett would write them down, and the geographical nomenclature of the island would be definitely adopted. First, they named the two bays and the mountain, Union Bay, Washington Bay, and Mount Franklin, as the engineer had suggested. Now, said the reporter, to this peninsula at the southwest of the island, I propose to give the name of Serpentine Peninsula, and that of Reptile End to the band tail which terminates it, for it is just like reptile's tail. Adopted, said the engineer. Now, said Herbert, pointing to the other extremity of the island, let us call this Gulf, which is so singularly like a pair of open jaws, Shark Gulf. Okay, capital, cried Pencroft, and we can complete the resemblance by naming the two parts of the Josh Mandible Cape. But there are two capes, observed the reporter. Well, replied Pencroft, we can have North Mandible Cape and South Mandible Cape. They are inscribed, said Spilett. There's only the point at the southeastern extremity of the island to be named, said Pencroft. That is the extremity of Union Bay, as Herbert. Claw Cape, cried Nap directly, who also wished to be godfather to some part of his domain. In truth, Nap had found an actual name, for this cape was very like the powerful claw of the fantastic animal which this singular shaped island represented. Okay, enough of reading. I don't I never know when this is going to end because it's only 16%. I'm guessing this story is gonna end at the end of this year, probably December. Hmm. Hopefully, this story ends by then. Okay, tonight I'm going to wrap up, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, bye bye.